Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared Podcast. This is your host Curtis with my co-host Aaliyah. We are here today with Milton Mendoza. I hope I said that right, from Prog Power USA. And he's going to be talking with us for the next 30 minutes or so about various different things. And it should be a lot of fun. So to start, I'm going to bring Aaliyah over to start the festivities.
Right on. So before we get started and dive in, can you give our listeners like a general brief summary of who you are and what you do within the realms of metal?
Sure. My name is Milton Mendonca. I am one of the co-promoters of Prog Power USA festival taking place every year in Atlanta, Georgia. And I also own Infinity Concerts, which is a booking agent based out of the States. It's currently on ice. I haven't done much booking lately, focusing mainly on Prog Power. And that's it. Yeah. Concert promoter on occasion here in the New York area as well.
Awesome. So can you kind of give us a little backstory on how you got involved with Prog Power USA to begin with?
Well, Prog Power involvement. I mean, I started attending the festival as a fan back in 2002. So it's been Prog Power has been a part of my life for more than half of my life at this point. I started going as a fan in 2002 because my favorite band was playing at the time. It was Angra from Brazil. I was born in Brazil as well. So when I found out they were playing in the States, I said, I have to go see them. Little did I know that, 3 weeks after I confirmed Prog Power, they announced a show in New York, about 45 minutes away from home. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go see them twice. So I started attending as a fan, and eventually I went from working in publicity, music journalism at first, that led into working with publicity for some bands and some record labels and stuff. And from there, I fell into booking. I worked with Instrumental, which was a Danish booking agency that started an office in the States. From that point on, I moved into opening my own agency, which was Infinity, and started dabbing into concert promotion slowly. I worked with Glenn quite a bit. Glenn is the founder of Prog Power USA. And he offered me the opportunity to take over one of the 4 days of the festival. And I really had not much of an idea what I was doing in terms of being a promoter at that point. But I said, yeah, let's run with it. Let's do it. And it kind of went like that, one thing pulling the other sort of unexpectedly. I never set out to work as a booking agent. I got a phone call and it was Klaus, the guy who ran Instrumental at the time, said, hey, we're expanding to the States. We want to know if you want to be a booking agent. I'm like, sure, let's do it. What do I do? It was kind of like that. But through being an agent, I learned a lot about what it's like to promote a show, I guess. So it helped to have that background, and I had already established contacts all over the world, and obviously that came in handy, and that made it easy as well. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it happened.
So I have a question that I know most people get confused about, and all three of us know the answer to this. So, but can you kind of clarify for the listeners? Because a lot of people do not really understand what a booking agent is or what they do. So can you actually clarify what it is and what you do? Because a lot of people think it's something else from what I've heard.
It's funny that you say that, because just this morning as I was driving here to my office, I was thinking about the difference between a promoter and a booking agent, almost like I need to know that if they ask me.
Yep.
So the best way I could come up with, the booking agent is trying to sell the show, to sell the rights to produce a show for any given artist at any given time. Whereas the concert promoter is essentially the person who's going to buy that show and actually produce it, find the room, find the crew, host the band, so on and so forth. So typically a booking agent will be working with a number of artists, and we'll get in touch with promoters that they know within a certain territory, and offer them the show and say, hey, I'm working on a tour for this and that band, and here are the dates that we have in mind, prices, etc. Are you interested? Uh, and kind of take it from there. You kind of build a routing from there, and um, yeah, it's very similar and very different both at the same time.
Yep. And then I know a lot of people also confuse it with management. Sometimes they even confuse it with PR. So that's why I was like, we should probably get him to clarify first exactly what he does. Sorry, Aaliyah, I took us off track, but I just thought that was
Oh, no
important.
need to apologize. That's a really good, you know, a good clarification to make. Um, Gosh, so you started in journalism?
I started with music journalism, yeah.
Who did you, can you share who you, like publications you wrote for?
So I had mentioned I was born in Brazil. I had a lot of friends that are still living in Brazil, from childhood. Um, and I had this friend who started running just like a music, like a webzine. It was called Paradise Metal at the time. And he got in touch with me. Funny story. He got in touch with me saying, "Hey, have you ever tried writing? Concert reviews, album reviews, because um, you see a lot of cool shows in the States. Maybe it's something you can do for us." And I'm like, I had just graduated high school. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do that. That sounds fun. If all I need to do is go to a concert and write about it, I'm all for it. Um, so he's like, okay, cool. There's a couple of concerts that we were thinking, in the New York area, we were thinking of having you go see. One of them is Arch Enemy. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, just let me know. And the conversation sort of died out. Um, and then, man, I remember like it was yesterday. It was a Thursday evening. I was sitting at home. The phone rings, and I look at the phone, and the caller ID said Century Media Records. And I'm like, holy crap. What is happening, right? I'm thinking maybe it's a marketing call.
Yeah.
So I pick up the phone, and it was their publicist at the time. Her name was Luana Valencia. And she said, hey, Milton, it's Luana from Century Media. I heard that you're starting in the music journalism thing, and we have an interview scheduled at the Brooklyn show with Arch Enemy. And I'm like, oh, do we? I had no idea about it. So that was like, I don't know, 3, 4 days before the show.
Oh, plenty of prep time. Plenty of
Oh
prep time.
yeah, oh absolutely. So and it was awesome because over the years I wound up working with Luana several times, and she was such a help, such a big support. I would get her on the phone and be like, hey, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help? And she would put everything down and just get on the phone with me. It really was awesome. So yeah, that's kind of how it started, They just sort of threw me into the frying pan and said, hey, figure it out. I wound up going to the show with some friends. I had my interview with the band just outside their tour bus. I was super nervous, but we got through it. And yeah, it just started like that. So I was with Paradise Metal for quite a bit. And then eventually I got a paid gig working for a print magazine, um, also in Brazil. It was a subsidiary of Rock Hard, the German magazine. They had just taken over a publication in Brazil and turned it into Rock Hard. It was Valhalla magazine at the time. So I worked for Rock Hard Valhalla for a few years, until they ultimately disappeared, like most other print media.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, I did some freelance stuff here and there, but not a ton after that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool because when I finished high school, I was going into school for journalism anyway. So
Perfect.
at the time, I'm like, man, if I can just write about music for the rest of my life, I'm all set. This is perfect. Didn't quite work out that way, but that's
Right.
okay, you know. Yeah, so that's how I got started, and I think I must have done, I don't know, something like 500 or 600 interviews over the years. Yeah, with
Nice.
um, a lot of artists. It's interesting, you're assigned certain interviews that you have absolutely no idea about the artist, and then you have like a couple hours to familiarize yourself. You know, or interviews with bands that I had followed since I was a kid. So it was a good experience, and it really served as the basis for all the context that I would use years later. Um, so yeah, it was cool.
That's a really good way to explain it. Like it's the context, it's the framework that you build the rest of your life, out
Yeah,
of.
this industry I feel like is 99% who you know and how well you know the people. Yeah, it's makes a big difference.
Yeah, and if you do whatever, it's almost like you can do, once you start doing one thing well, you can do anything well. It's just a matter of focusing, and you can get redirected and you can roll with it.
Yeah, you definitely take information and knowledge from one aspect of working in this industry to the next. Um, like I took stuff from the journalism part to the PR part to the booking part to the management part to the promotion part. And I really think you need to have that background from all of those aspects if you want to succeed in it. I think you need to know a little bit about how everything works. Um,
So, what about bands? Do you feel like bands can benefit from knowing that a bit of that stuff too, or is that a little too much for?
I think it serves them right to have a competent team behind them. But especially for the smaller bands starting out, I think absolutely you need to know how things work. A lot of the times the expectation may not be as realistic as they think. So yeah, I would, if I had a band, I would want my band members to all be well versed in how the industry as a whole works. Um, I
Do you
think
play anything?
I used to play guitar and I used to sing a long time ago, but yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I feel like, growing up, I always wanted to, I remember this conversation I had with my grandma when I was 4 years old, and she asked me, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm going to be playing the rock shows until like 1 in the morning." And I thought it was so cool for saying that. But working with this kind of scratches that itch from that little kid who wanted to do that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be involved in it in some way.
Yeah.
I think I realized that I am much better at the behind the scenes part than, on stage. So I chose to go this way, and I think I did okay with it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I have a booking question, but think I should probably wait until after you get into it, Aaliyah, because it's otherwise going to throw us off the
Well, I
rails.
have taken us a little bit off track. So, Brennan, I'll bring us back on track here.
Cool.
You manage or handle the booking for one of the days of Prague Power USA. Can you walk us through what that process looks like?
Wow. Well, we joke that we start working on the festival the day after the previous festival.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So usually the show takes place in September. And in September, we announce the roster for next September, typically. We start the booking process of the show probably in the winter into springtime. So we're doing everything like a year and a half in advance.
Right. So this winter you'll be like planning the booking for 2024.
Correct. Exactly. Tickets for 23 for my night aren't even on sale yet, and I already have conversations with bands for 24. But we have to do it this way. We can't wait till a couple of months before, especially because of the whole visa process that I'm sure you guys know is a nightmare. Um, but the show, I mean, we yeah, we're working on it for months in advance, and we're there when we're there, it's your typical load in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Um, a lot of coordinating schedules of bands and sound check and pickup from hotel and airport and kind of a mishmash of all of that.
Yeah. I was listening to your interview of Glenn this morning from like 9 years ago.
Oh
And
wow, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
he was mentioning pulling out a spreadsheet, like when he was trying to pick the bands and arrange the lineup. You
hmm
ever pull out the old spreadsheet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think we have a couple um probably we have a couple of Google Docs that we go back and forth between Glenn and I. And we have the iterations of our next lineup, and of course that gets revisioned, revised so many times. Oftentimes what we our initial idea for a roster is never what the roster turns out to be. Um, except for this year, I would say that the same five bands that I wanted for next year sort of panned out. So it was a first. Um,
Can I interject a quick question? You're probably gonna about to answer it, but if you're not, cool. So how do you actually, or sorry, how do bands actually get considered for the festival? Because I know that's going to be a common question that's going to come up. I'm assuming you probably like to work with bands with managers. I'm assuming as a preference.
um, I mean, not all the time.
Okay,
Sometimes they make things harder,
fair, fair,
honestly.
fair, fair, fair,
Um,
fair,
but it really, we're not necessarily tied to only working with bands that are signed or have managers or
fair.
whatever.
So,
Um, it's a
so
combination of whether or not we think the band is good, if the audience likes it,
fair.
you know. Timing is a very important thing, and a lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah,
Um, budget, of course, comes into play.
of course.
Whether or not it's something, the whole idea of Prog Power was to be able to offer bands that the US fans wouldn't be able to see every other year on tour.
Fair.
So we still try to find those bands that are only, they wouldn't bring 10 people at a local show anywhere in the States, but we know it will work in our festival.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it has to be something that we like as well, that we enjoy as well.
So how does a band go about getting on your radar then? If like
Well,
Joe
do
Blow
you
band,
do you even think the bands should be asking?
yeah,
Um, I mean, we get emails or messages
sure,
on Facebook literally every single day,
I'm
and
sure.
Sure you
and
do.
I think you probably, Aaliyah, if you heard the interview I did with Glenn, at one point Glenn said during that call, he's like, "Hey, we'll come and play for free," and he's like, "Hey, you're damn right you're gonna play for free because I'm not paying you $1."
Yeah.
Of course.
uh, so we still get those, hey, you don't even need to pay us. I'm like, you're damn right. um, but listen, the bottom line is and I can speak for myself and for Glenn, I'm sure,
Of course.
we are checking music out, new bands every single day of the year. I don't think there's a single day that Glenn and I are not sending links or chatting with each other about new bands.
Yeah.
We follow the scene very closely. We follow our audience very closely. Every single post on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, we read every single one of them. So we usually have a decent idea of who people want to see.
Mhm.
Um, we really believe in that interaction between us and the crowd as well and the audience. So we're always asking, who would you like to see a Prog Power? And oftentimes we'll actually count. We'll put together the spreadsheet with how many people asked for this band or that band, and it's a lot of work. Um, but the festival has had, I don't know, 18 or 19 of its editions as a sellout.
Nice.
So Glenn has been doing something right for a long time, and I'd like to believe that I am as well. Um, so, people are always welcome to send us links, to send us material. Easiest way is to send it on the Facebook page, I'd say. But our eyes are out there, we know what's happening, and we're watching, so to speak.
So to sum up, let me know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but if I am, forgive me. Basically, you'll find them. It's probably unlikely that a new band will get added to Prog Power just by submitting links. Correct?
I wouldn't say it's unlikely. In the past, one example I can think of was Circus Maximus back in 2006, I want to say.
Oh,
Maybe 2005. I remember Glenn posting on the forum, at the Prog Power forum at the time. I'm going to be announcing a band that 99% of you have no idea who they are, and 99% of you are going to love them. And I think they were unsigned at the time, or they had just been signed. There wasn't even a song recorded.
oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
he booked them based on demos.
Wow, that's cool.
And it was kind of cool to see the band growing with the festival. So yeah, if it's good and if we think the crowd will like, we love to bring music that people have never heard of. I think this
Sure.
is one of the things that personally I love the most. Yeah, there's some random name on my roster that nobody knows who they are, and then when they listen to it, they're like, "Holy crap, this is awesome!" It's really cool to see that. So yeah, it really depends.
Cool. So Leah, we got about 7 minutes left.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed.
Time flying.
Time is flying.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask about, and I'm not sure how in detail you can get about this, which is totally understandable, but the financial aspect of putting together a festival like this is a huge undertaking, understandably. And I think maybe you could speak to that so people can understand why these things don't happen, like these festivals don't happen as often here in the States as they might overseas.
Um, Travel costs are the main reason, and with that, visa costs are very expensive. Um, an artist from overseas cannot play in the States unless they have an artist working visa. That costs several thousands of dollars per band. And the branch of the government that basically processes these visa applications, they're not very efficient. So oftentimes we will send a visa petition for a band, and we don't hear back from them for 6, 7, 8 months. The problem with that is that bands need to book flights, right? Flights get expensive. We can't really wait. You know what I mean? So visas are probably the biggest hurdle for us, because again, our whole idea of the festival is to bring bands that don't play here often. And the worst part about that is that if the visa doesn't come through, we don't get refunded.
Yeah.
I've had visa applications come back to me with the confirm, like visa granted the day after the festival.
That hurts.
Yeah, it really does. Or like the day after we announced that they canceled because of the visa, stasis, if you would. Yeah, I mean, you have to pay for every aspect of the show. Our festival is an expensive ticket. I don't have another way to put it. My night is a 5-band night that costs $125. It's not cheap. But our festival has always focused on quality over quantity. Glenn has made that clear from the beginning, and he created this what is probably the best festival experience in the world because it's so unique, it's so different. Um, but it's expensive.
Yeah, I actually had a small taste of that. I'm not sure if you're familiar. There's a metal belly dancer named Diana Bastet out of Ukraine.
Okay.
And I tried to bring her to the States to like teach some workshops and stuff. And yeah, ended up she couldn't get her visa. We'd already bought the plane tickets,
Yeah.
couldn't get the money back for the plane tickets. She couldn't get her money back for applying for the visa, so it just kind of didn't happen. And that's just like a tiny taste. That's a one individual performer, not a band. So
Mhm.
can't imagine.
And we're lucky that we have a phenomenal sponsor program that allows the fans that have a little more money that want to help support the festival to pay in a little bit more to help with those costs, and it makes a world of a difference. If it wasn't for them, the show probably wouldn't happen. Our VIPs are awesome in that regard, but it's very expensive. It's scary.
Yeah, so if anybody's complaining about the ticket prices now, you know why. They have
Yeah,
to.
and I just need to throw this out there. We don't set the ticket master fees. I can't reiterate that enough about
Yeah.
it's
People
not
think that, huh?
it's not our fault.
No, no.
But yeah, it's a very expensive show to produce. It's a very expensive show to attend, but I think there's a reason why people keep coming back, 22 years in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Couple rapid fire questions since we are running out of time.
okay.
What is your favorite method or platform for promotional purposes?
Hmm. For a band or for the festival?
Both. Like
Uh,
for an event, I would say. So for the festival or for a
think
show.
I think Facebook is still the way to go for us anyway. Maybe because we're a little older.
Yeah,
You know,
consider
uh,
your target demographic, right?
yeah, exactly. And our audience also is a little bit on the older side. We don't see that many, you know, 16 to 20-year olds attending our show. So we're not on TikTok, you know.
Might have
But
to change that in the future, but
yeah, I think so. But I I think Facebook and Instagram have been big for us, and of course word of mouth as well.
and then for my last question really is like, do you have any general tips for bands who are booking their own shows for promotion? Are there things that you have learned that you could sort of hand off as a tip to bands DIYing their own stuff?
I think the biggest tip I can offer is to not be blindsided, to not be blinded by the fact that you're going on tour. I've joked with friends with friends and bands that the moment you talk about going on tour, it's like the bands go like a deer in headlights. Nothing else matters. We're going on tour. That's all that we care about. Um, really put together a budget, really try to understand what you're getting paid versus what you're spending on a daily basis because it's not a tour if something doesn't go wrong. It's not a tour if there's not variable extra expenses that nobody's planning to have. A van can break, a show can get canceled, your gear can get stolen. Um, I mean, unless you know for a fact that you're going to come home with a few less dollars than you had it out, and unless you're okay with that, don't do it. I mean, I hate to see amazing bands deciding to go and do a tour on their own and coming back and never touring again or never doing anything else because they, shelled out $20,000 and now they're in the hole. That money, it's heartbreaking. Um, but just be prepared because you gotta, it's almost like I always made an analogy that people go to college so they can have that piece of paper to be able to make money later on. But it costs a lot of money, right? That's your investment. And it's kind of like that with the smaller band. You know, you're not going to get away without investing money into it. And you got to be prepared for it. You got to have a plan for it.
Really good advice.
Mm.
Last thing, tell us about what's coming up for next year for Prague Power. I know you've only got, what do you got, less than 30 tickets for the days 3 and 4, and
Mhm.
your tickets are going on sale soon, so pimp it
Yeah,
out.
so Glenn's 2 nights. The festival is 4 nights. Um, Glenn is responsible for nights 3 and 4. We have just under 30 tickets available for those particular nights. So if people are on the fence, you might want to act. Like I said, it's been sold out. I think maybe 19 of the 22 editions, maybe more. I have day 2 tickets going on sale November 5th. I have 5 bands that night. Beast in Black is the headliner. I have Vola. I have the Halo Effect, 0 Hour and 7 Kingdoms. A pretty stacked lineup. And I think it'd be a great show, you know. So tickets
Most
are coming
definitely.
up on sale soon, and I hope to see everybody there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Milton, for coming on and talking to us. I feel like I could have talked to you for a little bit longer, but we
Of
got to
course,
wrap up.
guys. Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And until next time, everyone listening, make like a bull and throw those horns up.